Okay. So we're doing training on enrolling employees, okay? But there's some key things that I want to just make sure that I lay out there when you're enrolled, okay? Um, so I want you to actually write these down in a notebook, okay? So first and foremost, it doesn't matter what their body language is like, okay? When an employee approaches you, you do not want to change what you say when you're enrolling somebody, okay? Because I hear sometimes like, oh, I'm really good at reading people. I could just tell he was like this, or I could just tell this person's like this. Like, that may be the case, but don't change what you're doing, because I'm telling you, like, many times, like the people who enroll a high percentage of the employees, they're just consistent on just being enthusiastic, passionate about what they do. Because remember, all this is a transfer of belief. The employees need what we have. So don't change up your game plan as far as enrolling. So if they're walking in and their arms are crossed, and like the gentleman this morning who he was talking like super soft on purpose, like I could barely hear him, and then he was like giving us one word answers, you still want to, like, the same thing, like, well, anyways, my name's Amanda, I'm with Liberty National, Globe Life Liberty National, we're a part of the benefit program here. Like, you want to be equally as enthusiastic with that person. If they're looking at you like this the whole entire time, it doesn't matter. Just don't change up what you're doing. Some other things that I wanted to make sure I covered was your body language. So and I forget what the exact percentage, but there's a saying out there that 93% of all communication is body language. 7% is actually like what comes out of your mouth. So what I mean by that is sometimes when employees are coming in and their arms are crossed, they're giving you one word answers. And I'm just going to give you worst case scenario, like they're waiting for you to sell them something, basically, like is probably why they're acting that way. So I want to kind of, you want to try to make yourselves as far from a salesperson as possible. So just some key things, like, be careful what you're doing with your hands. Okay. Like if you're doing a lot of like fidgeting or whatever while you're talking, like it's just distracting. Like they're because we do a lot more talking than them when we're enrolling them. So just try to have a pen in your hand, and instead of like just verbally saying the information, make sure you're actually pointing and that their eyes are following along. So that way it's not coming from you. Your job is just, you're the middle person explaining it to them. Because that's the key thing, is just being an educator of like educating these people on their benefits. If you do that, then it's inevitable they're going to enroll because they need what we have. Okay. So you want to have a pen, you want to actually know where you're pointing. Okay. Because I saw a lot of you guys, you have the words down, but you're not pointing to the bullet pointed in the book of like where to point and like where to underline in the book. And if you can get them following along like that, it just solidifies, like, I'm not just trying to sell you. It's not me, talking about this stuff. Like, these are your benefits. This is how it works. You're being a little bit more factual on it. The other thing is when they approach you, again, does not matter how their body language is, like, make sure you are very welcoming. That's the other trick, is like, you, every year, the successful enrollments that you go every single year, you want the employees to always want to come see you. So make it an enjoyable experience. Like, as they're approaching you, like, hey, how are you doing today? Well, anyways, my name's Amanda, I'm with Liberty National. And that intro of explaining who you are, why you're there, and what your job is, I think is like one of the most important things of the entire thing, especially for the people that walk in and their arms are crossed, the one word answers. You're going to help get the wall down when they know what you're trying to do. So when you lay out, like, well, anyways, I'm Amanda, I'm with Globe Life Liberty National, we're part of the benefit program. So that's who I am and why I'm there. And so basically what I'm here to do today is two simple things. You're laying that out. And the two things are, there's two benefits you're entitled to because you work here, and those don't cost you anything. And then there's some benefits that you can qualify for, or there's some updates on some benefits I need to let you know about. Okay. Either one of those works, but then it's kind of like, oh, okay. Like, even if they walk up, if somebody's like, hey, look, I'm not going to enroll in anything. Hey, look, yeah, that's no problem. How's your day going? You know, like just, hey, that's no problem. That's no problem. Like, it's not my job to sell you anything. You don't say this, but you're not there to try to sell them. You're just there to try to educate them. So even if they approach you and they're like, I'm not going to enroll in anything today. Hey, that's no problem at all. How's your day going? Well, anyways, my name's Amanda. I'm with Globe Life. I'm basically here to do two simple things for you. I'm going to go over the two benefits you're entitled to through the employer, and then there's some benefits you can qualify for. So if you don't mind, have a seat. This will just take a couple minutes. And the way that the employee enrollment goes, you can flow right into the next thing. And even if they say that, it doesn't matter whether they're enrolled or not. It's just your job to give them the information. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. So that's the biggest thing, is don't change. And then the other thing, because I'm going to have you guys role play, and I'm going to model it. I know you guys have heard this, but I'm going to model it, and then we're going to break off, and I want you guys to enroll each other. Okay. And I want you to go through every single one of the benefits in the booklet to practice how to build value in it. Okay. And I'm going to highlight that here in a second. But another key thing that I noticed from some of you guys that are new to enrolling, when you're in the employee benefit booklet, so go ahead and turn to the group term 2100. Okay. Group term 2100. Something that I noticed is how you guys are leading into this benefit. You're saying you're basically making the mistake, because you're explaining what the benefit is, but you're not explaining why they need it. So write that down. You want to start with the why. Always. Doesn't matter if it's group term. So when you guys are role playing, specifically, that's all I care about. Okay. You are going to explain how it works, but I want you to explain the value of, like, okay, why do you need this first? Okay. So when you transition after you get their information, okay, and you're transitioning into the permanent and portable benefits, that's basically all you say. So the next thing I'm going to go over, I'm going to highlight some of those permanent and portable benefits, and there's two sides to what we do. One side, we provide the group life insurance. It's the best life benefit you can get through an employer. And then the other side are some living benefits that help pay you if you become sick or injured. So let me ask you this, right? You ask them the questions. Do you already have some permanent life insurance set up for yourself outside of work? Yes, no, whatever they say. And then do you already have some living benefits set up for yourself that will pay you if you become sick or injured? Okay. What runs more in your family? Cancer, heart disease, neither or both? And do you take any prescriptions daily? Okay. Those are the questions you want to ask before you go into any of these things. And then when you get into the life insurance, okay, so the first thing that I want to make sure I go over is the group life insurance. Okay. And this is the best life benefit that you can get through an employer, because unlike a lot of group term that will terminate on you, this one is meant to be permanently there. It's going to cover you all the way to age 100. And what most people, so I write this down, because this is the line you guys are missing, is most people. What most people do on this benefit is set it up enough for funeral and final expenses. And if they're single with no dependents, you want to build the value into why they need this. So let me just stay on that track. So what most people do is set this benefit up enough for funeral and final expenses, because that's the first thing families have to deal with if, God forbid, something were to happen. And I want to actually hear you guys say, let me ask you this. Have you ever dealt with a funeral before? Okay. Because now you're starting to build value in it. Yes, no, whatever they say. Okay. Well, you can imagine they're very stressful, or, oh my gosh, who was it for you? Like, talk to them about that. Okay. Do you remember how much the funeral cost? Because you want to get them to picture, like, why would they need life insurance? Well, that's what you need it for. Like, when you pass away, funerals are very stressful on your family. They're not easy. The funeral director wants their money right away. And even if you have $10,000 to $15,000 set aside, you don't set it aside for a funeral director just to pay a funeral home. So again, you want to build the value. So what most people do is Is set this up enough for funeral final expenses? Have you ever dealt with a funeral before? Yes, no, whatever they say. Okay, if you don't mind me asking, how much was it? Or do you know what the average cost of a funeral is nowadays? 10 to 15,000. Isn't that crazy? It's so expensive. And obviously everybody we're going to be sitting down with is in their working years. So then you want to say, and that's just today's cost. Obviously 30, 40, 50 years from now, cost of funerals is going to go up. So what we recommend is having anywhere from like 20, 30, 50,000 or 10 to 20,000 or 15 to 30, whatever, depending on their age bracket of what you're going to write down. Okay. And they can do more than that, but just, again, we want to just get them started, and at the very least, make sure they have enough permanently there for funeral and final expenses. Okay. Because 90% of the group life that you write is going to be under 50,000. So we just want to at least get them there. As I know, some of you guys were enrolling and had mentioned like 70. So I'll write down 50,000, 75,000, 100,000. Well, that's going to be a huge chunk out of their paycheck. It's okay to write those policies, but let them tell you that. Like a lot of times if I write down 20, 30, 40, 50,000 or whatever, they're like, well, what would 75,000 be? Or what would $100,000 be? That's a buying question. Let them tell you, because the mistake I don't want you to make is put 50, 75, and 100,000 on as an option. And then them just immediately write it off. Like, no, I'm not going to have $30 out of my paycheck every single time. You know what I mean? Like, or $40 or $50, whatever it is. That's something they're going to have to go home and think about. But when they see it's $10, $15, $8, $7, whatever, that's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'll do this, this, this. And then when they add, especially if they get 3 or 4 benefits or 2 or 3 benefits, it adds up to, $30 a paycheck or whatever. It's still not expensive for everything, but it's something that's not that big of a deal. Okay. Because the idea is we want to keep all of their benefits around an hour's wage per week, which of course, we don't know exactly how much people make, but let's say somebody makes $15 an hour. Well, then you want to keep all of the benefits around $15 a week. Because the idea is if their boss came up to them and said, hey, we're really busy, we need you to stay an extra hour on Friday, and they get paid on 41 hours versus $40, they're not going to go home and be like, oh, let me go buy a new house, a secondary home, a vacation home, let me go buy a new car, or I'm going to go buy a Rolex watch or anything like that. No, that 1 hour's wage, in that direction isn't going to make a big, huge change in their life. Or the other way around, if the employer's like, oh, we're really slow, so you can go home early on Friday, an hour early, and they only got paid on 39 hours instead of 40, they're not going to be like, oh no, we're going to have to can't pay our bills, can't put food on the table. You know what I mean? Like that 1 hour's wage, one way or the other, usually doesn't affect somebody's lifestyle much. But when you get to $50 a pay period, you know what I mean? Like that's a bigger chunk. So again, that's why we want to keep it 20, 30, 40,000. Or if they're older, like they're over 50, maybe even like 10, 15, and 20 are your options. Okay. The point is you want it to be like swallowable enough for them to make the decision right now to enroll and not have to take it home and think about it. Okay. But you want to walk them through it. So that's why you say what most people do. Like that's kind of a sales 101 thing, like sprinkling magic fairy dust on people. When you say what most people do is like, it just, oh, okay, well, if that's what most people do, you can even use that when you're closing. Like some of you guys heard, like when they're like, oh, I don't even really know. Okay, well, do you want me to give you some advice? This is what most people do, or this is what I would advise. You're kind of walking them through the choices that they should make. Okay. But again, I want you to start with the value, and I want to actually hear you ask them, have you ever dealt with a funeral before? That's how you start with this. Have you ever dealt with a funeral before? If you don't mind me asking, who was it or how much was that? Like ask those questions because they're going to paint that picture. And then remember, if they're single with no dependents, you want to say, I realize you don't have you don't have any dependents. It's not like you need to leave somebody a bunch of money. But what I advise and what most people do is set this up enough for funeral and final expenses, because even though you don't have any dependents, obviously if something happened to you, it would be mom or dad, brother, sister, whoever their beneficiary would take care of the funeral arrangements, right? Yes. Okay. So now all of a sudden there's need for that, right? Versus like if you're explaining like, well, this is group one, group term 2 100, It's portable, guaranteed rates won't, which is all great and all, but I'm single, no dependents. I'm thinking, what do I need life insurance for? So you want to start with why they need it. They need it because when they pass away, somebody's going to be burdened with a funeral. And you want to actually get them to picture that. And the better you are at them being like, oh yeah, it's undeniable they need it, right? So then you explain why ours is better. So after the fact, so like, okay, yeah, they're 10 to 15,000. Obviously over time it's going to increase. So what I recommend is 20, 30, 40,000 or whatever. Okay. And I'm going to write down a couple options for you. And this is how it works. Then you want to go through your bullet points, but take your pen and actually highlight on the lines of what you're explaining. Okay. So if you look at the book, these are the lines that I actually underline. Okay. And you guys I want you to underline these. And then when you're role playing with each other, I want you to actually use these. Okay. So we established the need for funeral and final expenses. So now I'm going to explain how this works. So what the county set up for you, or the business or whatever, is this group term benefit, like I was explaining before, covers you all the way to age 100. And the first bullet point I highlight is the policy is portable. So the fourth bullet point down. So underline that. Okay. Now remember, this is a portable benefit. And then I say, so if you retire, resign, or terminate, you can take this plan with you at no additional cost. So underline that. Then go on to the next one. It's a guaranteed rate. Your rate will never increase. So fourth and fifth bullet point down, underline. So policy is portable. It's a guaranteed rate. Once you lock in your age, your rate will never increase. Your coverage can never be reduced or canceled. And then that last bullet point, the death benefit will never decrease as long as the policy stays in force. And you can do coverage on you, your spouse, and dependents if you want, but I'm going to write down a couple options for you. Boom, that's all you have to say. Okay. Any questions on the life insurance? Okay, but when you're role playing, again, start with why. Okay, why they need it. All right, and then now I'm going to go over some of these living benefits. And again, these are the ones that are designed to pay you if you become sick or injured. So your health insurance pays doctors and hospitals. These benefits pay you directly. That's the line. Because again, if you just start going into the cancer plan, they might not understand. They might be sitting there the whole time like, well, I have health insurance. Like, what do I need this for? Okay. So health insurance pays doctors and hospitals. These benefits pay you directly. And the first one I want to go over with you is cancer. So don't go over how this works. You go over why they need it. Okay. And the reason I want to go over this with you is because you said cancer runs in your family, right? If they said that, okay. If you don't mind me asking, who was it for you? Oh my gosh, what kind did they have? Get them to walk you through that. That helps build the value. Keep in mind, the higher the need, the less concerned they're going to be with the price. Okay. Let's say they say cancer doesn't run in their family. Well, it doesn't matter if cancer runs in your family because it affects 1 in 3 people will be affected by cancer. And here's your line. Cancer is one of those things that's not only costly physically, but it can be financially devastating. Cancer is one of those things. It's not only costly physically, but it can be financially devastating. Because obviously, if you're going through cancer, you're going to max out your max out of pocket for the year or the multiple years that you're going through it. All your copays and you're going to see specialists multiple times a week. That adds up. Not to mention time off work, special diets. It's just a very, very costly disease. So you want to highlight all of that. Okay. I just want to explain this because you can use this, but I usually don't do this for everybody. But if like you really want to build value in the cancer plan, let's say it's the only benefit that you're going over. and let's say they're in their 50s, you can say like, once you reach 55, it's a 1 in 2 chance. It's literally a 50% chance, whether or not it runs in your family. If you're 55 and older. And back in the day when I did individual, what we would say is, but this is just a way to build more value, is like, isn't that like you say, okay, so if you're over 55, it's a 1 in 2 chance, which is a 50% chance. Isn't that crazy? Most people say yes. So like, I just think like, if I knew I was backing out of my driveway and there was a 50% chance I'm going to get in a major accident, like I'm not going to back out of my driveway. So you're just basically saying like, it's better to have this and not need it than need it and not have it. So like, I don't say that every time I'm enrolling, but I want to give you guys that, put that in your back pocket, because it's just another way to build value, especially for people that are like, yeah, no, we've got great genes. Everybody lives to be 100 in my family. You know, every once in a while you get those. But just, you know, it's a way to build value. Okay. So what they set up is the cancer endurance benefit. Now we can go over how it works. And I'm just going to highlight what I cover. I know Diana might cover a couple other different things, but so how this works is it pays a lump sum benefit on first diagnosis to help with your out-of-pocket deductible and initial time off work. And then you can make claims for income replacement. It pays every day you're in the hospital. So underline those. And as you're going through this, guys, like I'm underlining it in the book. Because remember how I said about your hands? Like you don't want them like looking at you in the face. They should be following along in the book with you. Because it's not coming from you. Again, you're just educating them on what's available. So first diagnosis, then you make claims for income replacement, pays every day you're in the hospital. Every treatment of radiation and chemotherapy, it actually pays up to $500 per treatment, which is huge. Because most people go through multiple treatments of either one of those. And we had, and you guys know the story, we had a lady, she had 45 treatments of chemo. We waited till the end and submitted, and she got a check for $22,500. And that was in addition to that lump sum benefit. Prescription chemotherapy is a very expensive drug, usually pay a lot out of pocket. This will chip in up to $10,000 a year. And it covers new or experimental treatment, which is huge. So underline that, the last point. Because a lot of cancer treatments are experimental and a lot of times they're not covered under health insurance. But this benefit will cover it. And then you say last two things, and there's two things that make our cancer policy better than most out there, is the last two bullet points. Okay. One is there's no overall lifetime max on how much the benefit will pay. So if cancer goes remission, comes back 5 years later, it'll keep paying. And you can continue the coverage after you leave employment. Okay. So I'm going to write that down for your family. Okay. And you can do individual or family. So that one, you start with the need first, then you go over how it works. Start with the need, go over how it works. Accident protector max. That's the next one I want to go over. This one covers any injury. And this is how you start. You say, and this one is, well, okay. I always say this is by far the most popular benefit. Most people enroll in this one because it covers any injury. And obviously you have kids, and obviously you're a mechanic or a bodyman or construction worker. And like what you guys, you know, obviously with what you guys do here for work, right? You're explaining exactly why they need it. Okay. If you have kids, it's inevitable. Your kids are going to get injured at some point. You're going to have to deal with, you know, stitches, broken bones, sports related injuries, four-wheeling, dirt biking, motorcycle riding. Like start with that. That's why somebody would need this. So start painting the picture of that. Car accident, whatever. This covers any injury. So you intro that first, and how it works is this. So you guys following the formula here? So create the need, then explain how it works. And then at the very end, and keep in mind, you only give the prices of this at the very end. So if you guys have ever enrolled with me, if I finish explaining something and they say, oh, well, how much does that run? Right? Like the lady did this morning. What did I tell her? I'm like, well, I'm writing that down for you. I'm writing that down because keep in mind, the higher the need, the less concerned they're going to be with the price. The last thing I want them to see is like how much it is, and you don't want to lose control. So I don't want, like, if they jump like, well, how much does that cost? And how much, you know, well, that one runs you this much, blah, blah, blah. And then you jump back and forth in between. Like, you want to just present it all at the end and then do a close. Okay. So keep that control. All right. So explain why you need it. So this is protection for the unexpected. It covers you. So underline on and off the job. So even if you got hurt here at work, and then that 5th bullet point down. So covers you on and off the job, 5th bullet point down. Any emergency room treatment, which includes urgent care, it's going to pay up to $500 per incident, and you can make unlimited claims. That's important to say because sometimes people don't want to make claims because they think their premium is going to go up. They can make unlimited claims. The premium's never going to go up. Okay. And then if you're admitted in the hospital, daily hospital benefit, it pays another $1,000 benefit. And then you stay on that same underline, and every day you're in the hospital, it pays up to $500 per day. If you're in Missouri, up to $300 in Illinois, but let's just practice with 500. So up to $500 per day, doubles that amount if it's bad enough for intensive care. So underline that one. And then we already covered emergency benefits, so skip that one, go to, and then additional amounts pay for dislocations and fractures, additional amounts pay for an ambulance. But all these things stack on top of each other and they send you the check. That's how you end it. They send you the check. And then the quick claims. So put that on there so you don't forget. The last thing is Liberty has the quick claims process, which basically means if you do need to make a claim on this, we just do it all digitally online and we'll get that money direct deposited to you within 24 to 48 hours. Okay. And then the last one I want to go over with you guys, skip to the last page, is the critical illness. And honestly, guys, this one you don't really at this point have to build as much need. This one's like the easiest one. You just say this one deals with the heart side. Something more critical like a heart attack, stroke, God forbid you go through something like that. Obviously, you're going to have more time off work. So how this works, and then underline, it pays a lump sum benefit directly to you. It's in that first paragraph. So this benefit pays a lump sum benefit directly to you upon first diagnosis of a critical illness. And it includes things like heart attack, stroke, major organ transplant, loss of eyesight, loss of hearing, and it includes kidney failure. But basically, if any of those things happen, you choose the amount anywhere from 10 to 50,000 that will pay to you tax-free. Okay. So let's say you pick the 25,000, and then just give an example. You pick the $25,000 benefit. God forbid you suffer a heart attack or stroke. That 25,000 pays to you tax-free. And just always make sure you emphasize tax-free. Okay. All right. So that's how you go over it. Then, so I'm going to write these down, and then you write them down on a blank piece of paper, the ones that you're going to go over. Make sure you write very clearly, okay? And you try to keep it consistent. I just like this because it's like, the idea is when you're closing is like, you make it a no-brainer for them. And, okay, thank you. You want to keep it simple and make it like, okay, we've established that there's a need here. So now it's just like, okay, which option works best for you? That's technically your close. So you write it all down. And then this part you want to go slow. You turn it around and you say, okay, so first thing I wrote down is the group life insurance. And I just wrote down this much and this much, and this is how much it would be. And you kind of walk them through what the premium is. Just sales 101, guys. You really shouldn't actually say the premium out loud. I do say it sometimes, but try not to. Like, sometimes I hear you guys, you're like, okay, so 20,000 is $8.97 a pay period, which is pre-tax. So out of pocket, it's $5.78. Like, don't actually say it out loud. It always sounds more expensive if you say something out loud than just pointing to it on a piece of paper. So the first thing I wrote down is 20,000, and this is all that it will be per pay, which is pre-tax. So this is what it will feel like out of pocket. or 30,000, this is what it would be, and this much, you know, you guys get the point. Critical illness, or I mean, cancer endurance, I wrote down individual and family, accident, individual, family, or however you wrote it down. Okay. Then now here's the close. The most important part is the close. And guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. I don't care if you're talking to the business owner. I don't care if you're talking to the front desk lady, the payroll lady, everyone's the exact same. That is honestly the trick. Okay. There's no, like, sometimes people will be like, well, I want you to talk to the business owner as if I'm going to do something different. No, I just do it the exact same that I would if it was Bobby Sue in the back. Okay. So, when you close, you created the need, you're giving them the option, and this is the close. You start with creating the sense of urgency. You don't just close it. You have to tell them why should they do it now. So I feel like a broken record. Okay. But you start with, you say, okay, so this is blah, 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 blah. Okay. So the key thing is making sure you lock in your age. That's the key thing, because obviously we're never younger than we are today. It's a true statement, right? And that's what they base it off of. It's just based off of age. So if you can lock in your age, now you take the pressure off of it, right? Because now I created the sense of urgency, I'm going to take the pressure off. But the good news is we'll be back every year, so you can always change it or add to it. Now the pressure's off. Now I'm going to close it. Which option works best for you? If you do it that way, you're closing it, but you're not putting pressure on it. Okay. You've created the sense of urgency, and your close is basically, okay, this one or that one, or like, which option works best? Like, obviously no is not an option, right? We're making it like, hey, you're picking options. Which ones do you want to do? Okay. Okay. All right. Any questions, guys?
I think you covered it, but if they do say no to having cancer or heart disease on either side of the family,
what do I go with?
Yeah, what would you?
It depends. If they're really young, I might just do life and accident, and just make those the options. Okay.
Would you still like some back or just
if they say neither, but they say that they already have a ton of permanent life insurance, so I know I'm not going to give them any group life, then I might do all three. Just go over all three of those living benefits and close it that way.
I threw in a critical.
Yeah. Would you?
Or you can do, like, it just depends. Like, you could do life, one of them, like life, cancer, accident, or life, critical illness and accident. But just be careful of every person you sit down with. You don't want to go over every option with every person, because it's just, it's a lot. And then that's when you'll get like, oh gosh, sometimes I will go over it with, with somebody, I'll go over everything with them, and that's fine. It's just, you've got to kind of like read the situation, but majority of the time I'll do life, accident, and one of the living benefits. Or if it's an older person, they can't even qualify for accident, critical illness, I might just do life and cancer, or I might just do cancer and cash cancer, depending on the situation. So, any other questions? No? So what I want you guys to do, there's 4 of you guys, we're going to pair up, and I want you to role play from the beginning, introing who you are, why you're there, what your job is, into the book, and then pitch the life, cancer, accident, critical illness. I want to see the options on a piece of paper, okay? And I want you guys to close it. Create the sense of urgency, take the pressure off, and then close it. Okay, I want you to practice that, and then I'm going to come check on you, and I want to see what your option page looks like, because I might give you feedback on that. No, use your computer. Be realistic. Like, use Brandon's real age. Pretend he's single, no dependents, so you can practice that. Like, Brandon, obviously you don't have any dependents. It's not like you need to leave somebody a bunch of money. But have you ever dealt with a funeral before? I want you to get comfortable asking the uncomfortable conversation or question.
Like, have you ever done a funeral? No. Like,
No.
how do you talk about?
Typically, if they say no, just be like, okay, But you can probably imagine they're not easy to deal with,
I
right?
usually tell them, I'm like, well, take a guess. They usually guess more than what we
Yeah.
expect them to guess.
Yes, we can stop.
So then you in that situation, say